What is up, NFL fans? And this is not a charade. Do not adjust your television sets. Don't adjust them because Kevin Phillip Fox, our fearless leader, is not here. But the show goes on. He's traveling somewhere in the greater Americas, and so you're stuck with me. And my partner today is the great Jimmy Ray. What's going on, my man?
What's going on, man? Yeah, I forget where Kevin said he was going. Was it Virginia? Do you remember?
Virginia to something else. Look, you know what? I got some shade to throw off from the bat.
Atlanta to West Virginia?
Yeah. 49ers faithful. Armand already in the chat. Good to see you guys. And I'm glad you're here. And I'm glad you're here, Jimmy, because I have some shade to throw. If I can start the show. No, not at you. It's at Kevin because he can't defend himself.
Nice.
So a couple weeks ago, my son turned 1. I wasn't on the show. I tuned in the morning just to hear Kevin maybe just to say something like, Adrian's not here. We miss him. Nothing like I didn't exist. So your thoughts on changing today's show theme to at Kevin's expense?
I'm down for that. Yeah, we could talk a lot about that. I figured we could just like sprinkle some things here and there. That would be like he might catch here and there, but he wouldn't necessarily catch like all of it. So we could just get him, and then next week he's just like, what is happening? And there's a bunch of inside jokes. Like, just
yeah, that'd be great.
So, yeah, that'd be awesome.
I'm definitely emptying the clip on the Bills while I can do it without copying.
We start here with Armand.
Armand, Aero, and J Ray. I love it.
It's already better. It's already better.
And this is the show is just fantastic. We're skyrocketing here, and it'll be better than Tom Brady roast. Significantly less swearing. I accept that. Not as many divorce jokes. That'd be great.
Not as many. Yeah. None of us are divorced. I don't think.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So without further ado, listen, we've got a big show to get to today because football is officially kind of back. Camps have started. Are all teams back at camp?
Yeah, I believe so.
Every team's back, right?
Yeah, I think it was like the 26th. I think yesterday everybody showed up.
Yeah, so we want to hit a bit of news about camp, but we're going to talk a few things. So we want to start with the holdings and outs. But before we do that, some news has happened while I was asleep. But luckily for me, Jimmy Ray does not sleep, and he was all over it. So Tua Tagovailoa got his extension, 4 years, $212.4 million, 167.1 guaranteed. Himmy, your thoughts?
It's a lot guaranteed, man. 167 mil. I mean, nothing like Deshaun Watson's contract. But we saw this coming. I don't think there was a scenario to where Tua didn't get paid at some point, because it's gotten to that point where like the next quarterback always ends up getting paid, and you're kind of in that scenario now, which we can talk about definitely later. We can focus on Tua now. But like with the quarterback who you don't necessarily feel like he's like the guy, he's not maybe a top for you, but he can definitely perform well enough for you to make a run in the playoffs, and they feel like Tua is that guy. He has, I think, it's the third highest average annual salary now for quarterbacks. First for a quarterback with a 4-year contract. So $53.1 million a year for Tua. Incredible, man. There was definitely a point where we never thought this would happen just a couple of years ago with like the Ryan Fitzpatrick Tua thing. But he's balling out. He has a lot of weapons around him, so that helps out tremendously. But that's what the football's all about. So.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I mean, so he came in just above Jared Goff. He's still below Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. And I think, look, when we've talked about Tua a little bit on this show. It's definitely not the regular season stats because his numbers are out off the charts throughout the regular season. But I think it's just his ability to play in the playoffs. But above all else, it's his durability. Number one ability is availability. There's a lot of abilities in one paragraph, but I think that's where the Dolphins were probably a little bit hesitant. I know there was a lot of back and forth. It was a weird one because he still showed up to camp. With the new CBA, you can get fined quite heavily if you're holding out, and we'll talk about that shortly. And he still did a couple of practice drills, but didn't do a lot. It was a weird one. So, but you're right. I think it was always going to happen, and I think you roll the dice without him. You say no, we're not going to pay you. Like it's kind of like and. We may get to this later as well. It's kind of like Dak Prescott. I think the Cowboys are silly to not pay him because you don't know what's on the other side of that. There's teams that have been stuck in quarterback purgatory for a long, long time. So I think you're right. You pay the man. They paid him. He's not the highest paid quarterback, so he didn't reset the market, and that makes sense. But he is better than Jared Goff. And if you're asking me who I'd take, Jared Goff or Tua, I'd probably take Tua.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk hold-ins, holdouts, and hold-ins. So as I mentioned a second ago, if you are at camp under the new CBA, if you're at camp, you're not getting fined. So that is a hold in, but you may not be practicing. And if you are not at camp, it's $50,000 per day you're not at camp. And if you are, there's certain situations, CeeDee Lamb is one of them where the team is allowed to waive those fines, and there's certain situations where they are not, based on what contract they're in. So if they're in a fifth-year option, I believe it is. Don't quote me on this. They can waive those fines. So we'll start with the 49ers. Brandon Ayuk holding in. He's not taking part in any drills, but he's met with the 49ers. John Lynch has said they're expecting to get it done. Uh, this is kind of, we've seen this before with Debo, right?
Yeah, we saw almost this exact same thing with Debo. I feel like, and then he ended up getting paid. So I think it's safe to assume Brandon Ayuk will end up getting paid. They're just using the leverage both ways to make it happen. He's at camp, I believe. He's holding in, not unlike his teammate Trent Williams. But yeah, Brandon Ayuk. I think it'd be very cool. I think it would kind of make sense for the team if they do trade him. I don't think that would necessarily be a surprise for anybody. I feel like, but I do foresee a trade getting done rather than that
Uh,
happening.
a trade or a deal?
A deal.
I was gonna
My
say
bad.
that's a big
Yeah.
call. Yeah, I think, look, he's a star player. The 49ers have been good about holding on to their star players. They signed just before camp with Debo. They signed just before camp with Kittle. Um, Although the difference in this one, and I agree with you. I think a deal gets done,
Mhm.
and we'll do a little speed round. Where do they end up, or will it get done after this? But uh, I think the difference is he's actively requested a trade. He went on a pod and kind of mentioned the Steelers and someone else's, potential landing spots. It's a bit different, like, I guess, behavior for a player. But I think when you look at, like, you'd be silly to let him go because his chemistry with Brock Purdy is out of this world. Brandon Ayuk is his guy. And if you want to be back and competing, as the 49ers always are, you sign your good players. And so I feel like this is no different.
And I think the biggest thing people forget with situations like this is when it comes to trading a player that's going to be signing a contract, you will not get as much as you think for him. So like
Mhm.
whatever trade happens, whatever trade they make, if they traded him away, I just feel like from the public's point of view, or maybe their point of view, or anybody's point of view, it just wouldn't look like they would get enough from it. But they would get picks. They wouldn't have to obviously pay him at that point. Another team would pay him and trade maybe a second, third round pick, but that doesn't seem like nearly enough for the quality receiver that Ayuk is. He's just been consistent over the past few years in terms of production. So I think that's the one thing people forget. So I think that's one reason why I think it's like more like 65-35 in terms of getting a deal done.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And actually, 49ers faithful, I'd love to, in the chat, let us know what you would be happy to accept as a trade. But you're right. We get these players and we're like, oh, that's a first, that's a second, two first. Like, and they never come in at that price that you're expecting.
No,
Maybe if you requested the trade pre draft, maybe something could have been done.
it's not. It's
Um,
not dynasty fantasy football. You have to actually play
yes.
these guys. You can't just like sit them on your roster. Like if you can do a fantasy football with salaries, that would give you more practice for like realizing what it is like in real life. But that's a little
And
much.
uh and just like fantasy football, like, you never get as much as you're expecting. Like when Kevin Fox offers me like a fourth for a star player because he is the master of the low ball.
He's the master of it, man. I just decline stuff like that. What do you want to do with that information?
And he
We're
seems
never
so
gonna meet in the middle.
he's so shocked when you decline as well. It's the best.
What
Um,
was that?
all
What
right.
was that trade last week or a couple weeks ago that we were talking about with you
Oh, I
guys?
can't remember, but he offered me someone ridiculous for a
It wasn't Christian
first.
Watson, was it?
No, no, but a player in our legit football league has been trying to palm me off Christian Watson for the entire, like, last 2 weeks. Anyway, so Trent Williams, he is holding out, so he's getting charged 50 grand a day. Um, I'll take this one. So I think, look, Trent Williams, I agree with what 49ers faithful said. He will get paid. He's got 3 years left on his deal, so maybe this might have come as a bit of a surprise. But he's probably the best left tackle in the game. And that does the only reason, and this is just the Packers fan in me after we gave Bakhtiari all that money and then he was gone after that. But he's earned the extra money. He knows what the market is at, and so I think he gets paid. I think if you want to keep Brock Purdy happy, You got to give him someone to throw to, and you got to keep him upright. And these are the two people you need to pay to do that.
Yeah, I mean, this dude, I mean, he's getting paid. He's getting paid some good amount of money over the next 3 years. So I think he just wants some sort of adjustment.
Mm.
I don't know if he'll last. I mean, he's 35, 36 years old. So maybe it's something to where like he doesn't think he'll play out all 3 years. So he wants to put it all kind of to this year, or next year, or something, kind of dwindle it down a little bit. I'm not quite sure what the guarantee money is on his contract. But it would be interesting to look into that because it's a longer contract. He's gotten paid the big bucks, but yeah, he's holding out. I believe you said that.
Mm.
So we'll see, but it's a little different scenario. I feel like with an older player like that. But he's the best of the best, so that's why
Yeah,
that's happening. He'll get it. I think it's more likely that he gets a deal done than Brandon Ayuk.
agreed. I think I'm trying to see if I can see his numbers, but I can't. If I off the top of my head, he was something like 21 million, 25 million this year. I can't remember exactly, but you're right. As an older
It's
player,
31.
yeah, the cap hit is bigger than what he's going to get, which is
Right.
odd, but yeah.
Always.
So yeah, but I think there we go. 49ers faithful, so he's got no guaranteed
Oh,
money
he has
next
no
year.
guaranteed money. Oh, I see. That's probably
Yeah,
why.
but
There's not much guaranteed money in 2024 and on.
premium left tackles don't come along every day though. So
That's true. I think that's the thing. I think he's more irreplaceable than like Brandon Ayuk. With all due respect, if Brandon Ayuk's watching, I wouldn't want to try to
I
replace
assume
you.
he is.
But if Trent Williams is watching, you're irreplaceable, my guy.
I agree. Yeah, I look. We might hear from Brandon Oaks agent after this. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely.
CeeDee Lamb over to Cowboys camp. So CeeDee Lamb, what are your thoughts on this? So he's holding in. I believe. I'll see.
Well, I don't think he's expected to attend. If I'm not, unless he did.
Sorry, you're right. No, so you are correct, and I'm sorry about
Okay.
that because I did mention earlier that they can waive that fine, so he probably won't pay it because he's in a fifth year
Mm.
option. But not attending camp. Yeah, what do you think?
The Cowboys are in a very, very, very bad situation in terms of having, well, good situation in the fact they have so many good players. But it's like when you trade for a bunch of players in Madden and then you realize, like, when contracts come up,
I am terrified.
Jerry
is that fake me again, or is that
Uh,
real me?
no, that's Kevin.
Oh, that's Kevin that said that.
Terrifying. I am
Oh, that is.
terrified.
Do you know what that was about? That was the thought of Xavier Worthy going to the Chiefs, which happened in real. That actually ended up happening. Sorry, continue. I interrupted
Terrifying. That is
you.
terrifying. Shout out my guy Kev. No, well, I don't even know what I was saying, but they have so many good players. They're trying to pay so many of them. They're not going to be able to pay all of them. Jerry Jones is in the media talking up. There was like some quote that he was like, "Got to stay in the media to get attention," and it's always helpful. And I was like, "All right, dude." But let's see what happens with the players and stuff first, because I don't think there's going to be a happy ending at the end of this. With CeeDee Lamb, you got Micah Parsons on the other side of the ball. They both want to be the highest paid non-quarterbacks, obviously, and they both 100% deserve it. But then I think you have a quarterback too that probably should get paid as well. So where are you going to go with that? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is, in fact, the only notes I wrote down for this was bad situation, because I think like this. So I'll tout my Packers here because they tend to do this. What they do is when they've got the cap space to do it, they front load their contract, so you've got the money to do so later. The Cowboys have kind of found themselves in a spot where they've got to pay 3-star players,
Mm-hmm.
all who want to get paid massive amounts of money. Now Dak has kind of been the one who's like, well, like I done the whole kind of like, I worry about now. I'm not looking to the future, because I think if he hits free agency, he's going to get paid a serious lump sum of money. But Micah and CD, you're right, both want to be the highest non-paid quarterback. I think CD Lamb has said as much recently, so I think a deal gets done because I don't think the Cowboys could operate without CD Lamb. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I'm just like, are they going to be able to pay everybody? That's like
No.
150 mil right off the bat. Like, are they gonna have CD be that guy?
Well, I think Dak's
Would
going to
you rather
play
pay
on his.
him or Micah and Dak? Like if you had to pick
I
two
think
of them.
Dak's going to play on his current contract, but he's
Yeah.
going to be because it'll end up costing them more if they retain him, which they'd be stupid not to. But I'm just going to say that over and over. But they'll end up paying. I feel like they'll end up playing sorry Dak on his current contract and then work it out with him next year.
Yeah. Trey Lance is eating up around 8 mil cap hit for a backup. Yeah, that's probably like a 1 year deal this year. I think that's safe to assume. So that's a little different. I think with any of these contracts, I think room would probably open up this year. But just looking at it long term, having like 50 mil a year for 3 different players, that'd be tough. And then you have the Trayvon Diggs and stuff too. I mean, they have a lot of good players.
They do.
Probably win some playoff games.
Well, that is also the question.
I don't know.
There was a Trey Lance, a bit of a Trey Lance glow up article, and you can look into this stuff as much as you want to. When it's training camp, it's hope season. Everyone is playing fantastic.
Yeah.
All right.
Trey Lance
Let's
has
hit
like
my
a
boy.
5 mil cap hit. Come on.
Yeah. Let's
He's
hit my
fine.
boy, Jordan Love, at camp, participating in meetings on the field, but not participating in drills. This one, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. This feels like it's going to be a done deal any day now. They might have even been waiting for the tour contract to drop. I don't think there'll be any hesitation in paying him. Brian Gutekunst has said just as much. All the players are behind him. It's a kind of refreshing take to see. It doesn't seem like there's any bad blood. It seems like everything is going forward, and they expect to get a deal done. It's just a matter of time, and until then, he's not practicing. But it seems like that's been on his agent's instructions, as opposed to disgruntled doesn't want to practice.
Yeah.
So
I think it makes sense. You don't want to practice without having that long-term deal in place. I mean, all of these guys, I feel like just holding out. It's for their best interest, obviously, because if something happened, we've seen like I think 3 or 4 ACL injuries already during training camp. So if that happens, you're not getting your contract, and you're losing out on like 9 figures. That's absolutely that's insane. But anything else to say about Jordan Love?
I'm just going to answer Armand and say yes. I would say he'll come in at the top quarterback contract.
Like around the same. I wouldn't be surprised if around the same. It's definitely an interesting scenario because we have Jordan Love who was in the same draft classes like Jalen Hurts, all of that stuff. So, and they have a lot more, or Justin Herbert and all Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, all of those guys. Same draft class, but obviously a lot less playing time. This is his first full year under his belt, so it's very interesting having to pay a quarterback after 1 full year of playing. So I don't know. Do you have any kind of resentment in terms of paying him, or you're just all in? Because I'm just interested to hear if you have any negative. Like maybe we should.
I'm all in, baby.
Yeah, I figured.
I'm all in. Look, you know what? It's weird, right? Because he had a stretch of 8 games where he was playing out of his mind, probably the top quarterback statistically over that 8-game stretch. But then he's got the first half of the season where he wasn't playing that well. But I think you saw everything you needed to see to say that he's got a ceiling that is worth paying for. The team loves him. The chemistry is there. I just and this is the thing that I was sort of mentioning before is they've got a collective wide receiver room on about 2.2 million, something stupidly low. So this is the year. Get it paid, front load the contract. They did that recently. I think was it Kenny Clark off the top of my head, where they front loaded his contract. I could be wrong on that. I might quickly look into that so I can correct myself. But there's someone that they front loaded the contract. Do it now while you can, and then then you have to worry about paying some receivers in a year or two as well. So I don't hate it. I'm okay if they make him the highest paid quarterback. I think
highest paid, like number one.
Yeah, honestly, I'm okay with it. Not because I think he's the best quarterback in the league, but I think that's the way the NFL works. Is he showed enough to say that he's worth keeping in the building, and if he's worth keeping in the building, generally you top the previous contract. Admittedly, I know Tua didn't, but yeah.
I guess. Trevor Lawrence Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow are tied up there for the top, so I wouldn't be surprised if he just matched them. So you have Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, and Jordan Love, and then maybe Dak just exceeds both of them at some point, and then you have Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, Lamar, like all those deals. Like Lamar and Jalen are at 6 and 7 now. They already look like they're getting a deal with the salary cap and stuff increasing. It's just gonna be the next guy up, and then in a year or two we'll see and to kind of look at the contract and see the production and see if we can make fun of them or if we think they did a good thing. So that's the beauty of it. You can't just like take that gamble and not pay him. I feel like it's better just to pay him and get it over with.
Yeah, I hear. I think. Look, you know what? Jared Goff's a really good example here. Like they gave him the bag because when you got a man who can operate the offense and you got a man who's got chemistry with the team and the coach and runs it the way he wants it to run, and brings some goods like and Trevor Lawrence is another good example. He hasn't been playing like if we did a quarterback rankings, which we might do in the coming weeks, is he top 10 Trevor Lawrence? And he got paid. You
No.
know,
Yeah.
he's got the ceiling. I think that's what it is. He's got the ceiling to be there. He's
Yeah.
shown flashes, and so you pay them to keep them because otherwise, I talk about it a lot. Like you end up in quarterback purgatory, and you jump from quarterback to quarterback. Just trying to hit. Just ask the Jets, who I'm about to talk to. Sorry, Armand. Um, Speaking of the Jets, an odd situation playing out there. So they traded for Hassan Reddick. They get this premium edge rusher, and then he doesn't show up to training camp, and he's holding out. So he's getting fined 50 grand a day. Not nothing in recent memory that I could think of where a player's been traded and then not got a deal done. I did read something around the Jets were expecting him once kind of negotiations fell apart. They thought they'd let him play out the final year of his contract and negotiate potentially towards the end of the season. And then he's sitting out, and they are saying they won't negotiate with a player who isn't at camp. So this feels same old Jetsy.
Jetsy, Jets
Yeah,
Jets esque. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. It does. It feels Jets esque to be honest with you because and not because it's their fault. It just seems like how do you trade for a player and then you can't get a deal done and then he's playing on a 1 year contract. So I look, it's weird. It's a weird situation, but he is holding out officially, so he's getting fined for this. So he's going to have to get paid and get paid enough to make up for that because they cannot waive those fines according to the new CBA.
Yeah, he's
So
looking $50,000 a day.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So real quick, do you think this gets done before camp is over, or is this going to be something we see potentially edging into the season?
Yeah, I think it'll get done. Saying that, I think that's probably like the second. I think it'll be tough. I think it has a better chance of CD Lamb's contract getting done. I think CD Lamb's the one where I'm kind of down on for some reason.
All right, I hear. All right, so and because we've got a main topic to hit, so very quick speed round. Will this get done and in order? So we have 5 players: Brandon Ayuk, CeeDee Lamb, Jordan Love, Hassan Reddick, Trent Williams. Who gets done and in what order? Done some speed round.
What order? I have to get what order?
Yeah, let's see what we can hit. I feel like they'll all get done.
Yeah, Jordan Love, Trent Williams, Hassan Reddick, Brandon Ayuk, and then CD doesn't get done this season.
Oh, okay. All right. I agree. Jordan Love, CeeDee Lamb, Trent Williams, Ayuk, Reddick. I'm gonna have to come back and watch
Say that again.
So Jordan Love,
Okay.
CeeDee Lamb,
Okay.
Trent Williams, Hassan Reddick. No, sorry, Ayuk, then Reddick. I'm gonna come back and watch this show quickly so I can bring this up next week to see if we got it right because they're probably not gonna all get done in a week. Let's see if we're on.
I don't know. I'm taking a shot in the dark on CD Lamb, but we'll see.
I think he gets done. I think if it wasn't like the Cowboys, don't get me wrong, they do make some stupid moves from here and there, but like they generally tend to they get a lot of pressure from the public as well because they're such a darling team.
Yeah.
I feel like they'll just get it done. But
yeah, they did pay Zeke, so
yeah. Don't get me started.
Okay.
All right, now where's my drop? I could cue myself up for this. It's time for our. So it is absolutely football is back in the mix. It's good to see camp happening, and as we know, there's some camp battles that are happening. So there's people battling for positions, and there's a lot happening. There's a lot of battles happening, but you're lucky. We're here to tell you which ones matter, and we're here to tell you which ones don't matter. So Jimmy, kick us off. Who's your first camp battle that matters? Camp Metal? I thought about Camp Metal, but I thought that's a weird pun.
One that matters. I like Gardner Minshew versus Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah,
I feel like that one matters a lot just in terms of we have a new coach coming in. He was interim last year. He's coming in. He has to make the right call here. I think Gardner Minshew might get the call, but I don't know. He might go with Aiden O'Connell, but I feel like if it starts out very poorly, then it'll be very unfortunate for the Raiders because they've had not the best luck at the quarterback position as a whole. They got rid of Derek Carr. Now they're coming in, and they don't necessarily they don't have a rookie that they could lean on. There's a lot of these that we could go into that, like, hey, there's these rookie quarterbacks that they're going after. But O'Connell, I think he was a 4th round pick a year or two ago. So it'd be interesting if they go that route. But I don't. I mean, other than the mustaches, there's been some great mustaches in this battle. But other than that, I don't think there's a great outcome either way. But I'm leaning Minshew just because of the Colts fandom, and he does have a little bit, but I don't think it's enough to kind of sustain success any sort of long term. But we could maybe Minshew would change that.
Yeah, I mean, and as a man of the mustache yourself, I'm sure you can appreciate Minshew's mustache.
Yeah,
Mustache. That's hard.
Minshew's
It deserves to be recognized. So I agree. I actually found that. So 49ers faithful has said the same thing, and I had this as top of my list as well as one to watch. I agree with you. This is an interesting one. So Devontae Adams said AOC was one of his favorite quarterbacks to play with, which was weird, and very un-Devontae like. So they want to keep him happy. Antonio Pierce has brought in Minshew. They're paying him 25 mil over 2 years. That's good, pretty good money. That would suggest that he was going to start. And when they first signed him, I think everyone's expectation was Minshew starting because of the money. But Antonio Pierce has come out and said that AOC is the number one unless it gets taken off him. So it's his job to lose. It is an interesting one. I think Minshew, and Minshew's your boy, right? Like you'd think like he can get the ball down. But I'm not wrong in thinking that he was Colts last year.
He was with the Colts last year.
Yeah, so that's
what I'm saying.
Make sure I didn't say something extremely stupid at 7:30 in the morning. I think Minshew takes the starting job. I think Aiden O'Connell sits for another year, but it's a weird situation, right? Because Pierce took over last year, but it kind of counts as his first year. Now, if you have Minshew playing for the next 2 years and you don't really see any success, and let's be honest, you're in a division where Minshew's probably not good enough to keep you afloat. Yeah. Antonio Pierce could find himself out the door because usually 3 years is how long you've got to turn things around, unless they have a better option. I will always say that Derek Carr was a good option that they should have kept in the building. But look, it is what it is, and he is where he is. But I always say that he was a really good quarterback, and they didn't lose because of him. He just used to get a lot of shade for some weird reason.
Yeah. I feel like it was Derek Carr's kind of. I think he wanted to stay with the Raiders, but I think it was maybe his time to go. I felt like there was a lot of falling out there. But I do kind of see them trying Aiden O'Connell, seeing how that goes with a young guy, and then reverting back to Gardner Minshew if it doesn't go well, and then maybe seeing some spark that Minshew will bring. And then kind of seeing what the record is at the end of the season, maybe bring in another young guy. I feel like that's kind of the way I see it. But with Minshew playing, I think the issue there is like you won't get a good enough draft pick to get maybe a young rookie quarterback that you feel comfortable with. And it costs a lot to move up for somebody like that. So, and this was kind of the draft, and we saw 6 quarterbacks go in the first round. This was the draft to grab someone, but maybe there'll be less teams looking for rookie quarterbacks next year. So you have that opportunity later on in the first round rather than like the first 12 picks.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Yeah.
Cool. All right. I was gonna hit Buffalo on this, but I'm gonna come back to them because of the chat going on about Wilson versus Fields. I actually think this battle matters more than people would. So the reason it doesn't matter, quote unquote, right now is because Russ has been said by Tomlin he's the number one and he's got that spot. He's been out with, and we reported it in today's legit football headlines. He's been out with a minor calf injury, and Justin Fields worked really well with the starters. He had a deep touchdown pass to Van Jefferson, showing some chemistry. The reason I think this matters is I think how Fields probably won't start. I feel like Russ is going to start, but how Fields plays in camp is going to determine Russ's leash because Russ still has all the smarts, and we still saw some of that stuff, even at the Broncos. Even when he sort of came back a little bit after the Nathaniel Hackett disaster. He's still got all the smarts. He can still extend the play, and he does that better than Fields. I know Fields has better running ability. He still throws a beautiful deep ball, but I don't think it's like – I think if Russ starts making mistakes or if he sort of starts being slow, he's obviously not the mover he used to be, but he can still run. But if you start seeing him slow, I feel like throwing Fields in, particularly with their running back room, is going to give them a stronger chance to hold on to Tomlin's winning record. So I think this matters. I don't think Russ is losing the job, but I think how long the leash will be determined by how Fields plays in camp.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I was kind of like, I was concerned as to where you were going with it because I was like, it technically doesn't matter, but you make some good points in the fact that like I do feel like Justin Fields will thrive in training camp. I feel like with his skill set, I think it's just like training camp is like the time when he'll show out. Unless he makes like way too many mistakes, but I don't necessarily see that happening. And then yeah, Russell Wilson will definitely be the starter week 1, but you know that leash could be 3 weeks long, 4 weeks long. It just it varies. If Russell's throwing like 3 picks in a game, and if we see Justin Fields come in at all, it's game over. Justin Fields has to be like you have to bring in Justin Fields when it's time to sit Russell Wilson down. But I'm so excited. I think this is one of the ones I'm most excited for throughout the season because there's definitely going to be some back and forth on
Sure.
like once Russell Wilson has like throws one pick, it's going to be like, what about Fields? Like Fields is on the sideline, he's grabbing his helmet, he has the shades on. I think there's that meme of him just sitting there with his shades on, which is elite. So we'll just be sitting that every now and then. Whenever
There's going to be a lot of that. There's going to be Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins. The second these guys throw an interception, Sam Darnold, depending if Jacoby Brissett. So there's going to be a lot of one interception calling for the other starter.
Absolutely.
Take it away. Give us another one. Tell us another one that matters.
Do you want one that matters? One that absolutely matters. So we've talked a lot of quarterbacks. Let me go Zach Moss versus Chase Brown. I think that's a very interesting battle in terms of they're on a really good team. I'm once again picking a former Colt and Zach Moss. Not picking him to necessarily win, but he's just part of this battle once again. So Minshew and Moss. Anyways, they're on a very good team. They're losing Joe Mixon. They're looking for somebody to come in, contribute to a high-powered offense, get those touchdowns, help them score just as much as they should. But a lot of people are like, "Oh, Chase Brown will come in. He's the young guy. He has the young legs. Will come in and produce." He didn't produce as much as they maybe wish. They didn't give him as much opportunity last year with Joe Mixon still kind of at the helm of things. I'm assuming most people would probably have liked to see him a little bit more. But yeah, Zach Moss, people are like, they paid him to come in. I think Zach Moss could be really good this year, potentially. A lot of people want to get that high upside with Chase Brown, but having that kind of consistent production with Zach Moss. Last year, we definitely saw him ball out with a great offensive line. On the Colts with Jonathan Taylor out for a little bit, he definitely that first half of the season, he was one of the top running backs in the league in terms of production. So will that happen this time? Probably not, but could we see maybe a more steady side of him this year? Maybe. So it's definitely interesting to look at both sides of the coin there, but both could have a really good season too with how high power this offense is.
Yeah, and I think look, you hit the money there because their offensive line is obviously better than it was when Joe Burrow first joined the team, where it was just a turnstile. And Joe Mixon did better last year than I think anyone expected him to. In fact, he cost me money, so I'm still throwing a little bit of anger towards him about that. So I think you're right. And this battle does matter. I'm going to go with Zach Moss to come out with the starting job. I think while we didn't see enough for Chase Brown last year to sort of make a judgment call, I also don't think we saw enough to say that he deserves a starting job or to be a workhorse by any means. So it might even be a bit of by committee. Who knows?
Yeah. Do you think it's like a real battle, or do you think Moss has it at this point?
I think Moss will. I think it will. I think you're right. It'll be a battle, but I don't know. I think Zach Moss will come out with the starting job, but they'll be splitting reps. Like it's not going to be Zach Moss is not going to be a bring them back. I don't think.
And there's room for both of them still. So I don't know if Zach Moss will have like the full workload in any sort of the word. I'm sure they hope that Chase Brown can be productive, but we'll see. Joe Burrow rocking the blondie. Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up.
He's the real Slim Shady.
He is, and look, if you, I'm looking at our viewers right now. Now we've got about 488 coming in from the NFL Stats Twitter account. Mr. NFL Stats, Jimmy Ray has agreed to dye his hair platinum blonde if we get half of those over as YouTube subscribers. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I will be tracking the.
Yeah, absolutely.
He did not know that was coming. But I will watch the YouTube subscribers, and if they go up by, let's just say 200, I'm gonna say that Jimmy has to go platinum blonde, mustache and all. I agree. Look, I think Armand,
Oh no.
this is like Foxy Man. Watch for a second. You can't turn away Joe Burrow. He's a good looking fellow, and he looks good with however he does his hair. He even rocks the blonde. He does all right.
Yeah, I'm
Uh,
trying to figure out. He was talking about it at one of the press conferences and stuff for training camp about why he did it. And he was like, I was bored, and I was like, all right, that makes sense. And I think he made some deal with like, was it? I don't know if is DJ Reader still on the team? Is one of the DJs, DJ Turner, DJ Reader, one of the two. He made a deal with. He's like, if I do it, you have to do it. So he was telling the media, is like, you guys have to hold him accountable. So I was trying to figure out who. Oh, it was
DJ
BJ
Turner.
Hill. BJ Hill. My bad. I was close. Uh,
Yeah,
but BJ Hill with blonde hair as well. Just both of them going at it. I think that'd be hilarious.
he
And
still looks good though. Joe Burrow still looks good in blonde. I'm sure
Joe
you
Burrow
can
looks
appreciate it as a
good no
Foxy
matter what.
Man yourself, Jimmy.
Joe Burrow looks good no matter what. I think
Yeah, that's
Evan Phillip Fox needs to come in and talk about this. I think he would have some great insight.
I
But
agree.
I would love to see Phillip Fox with that kind of buzz cut, bleached hair too. He probably yeah. We'll talk to him.
Let's move on. Off Foxy Man watch and onto Buffalo watch. So the battle that matters here, I think, is the wide receiver behind Khalil Shakir. So he's obviously going to be the wide receiver one. He's going to take the lion's share of the receiving targets. But they have got a lot of pieces. So Curtis Samuel, Marquez Valdez Scandin, MVS. So they've got Curtis Samuel, MVS, Mac Hollins, Chase Claypool. So if Shakir's taking the Diggs share of the target, who's taking last year's Shakir's share? I don't know if Buffalo works as a wide receiver by committee team. And I'm going to say this here because I can say it without Kevin, who would immediately shut me down for any negative talk about the Bills. They're going to have to try and operate like the Chiefs last year, where you've got a tight end as your primary, so to speak, target, and then a kind of wide receiver by committee. I don't know if it works. I feel like they're a team and they have historically operated with a star wide receiver. So I think this battle matters, and I think it matters to see who Josh Allen has got chemistry with, because the Bills are going to be competitive. We know they're going to be competitive because they are every year, and they've got Josh Allen, but Josh Allen, and I'm going to say this again only because Kevin's not here, and I'm probably going to get a call in a minute. He's not Patrick Mahomes. So Patrick Mahomes can absolutely operate with a wide receiver committee room and just make it work with these sort of Joe Nobodies. Don't know if Josh Allen can do that and remain in the mix in a really competitive AFC. So I think this battle matters. I think someone needs to come out as the clear number two, and I think you need someone to target and go through his progressions to. Otherwise, I feel like they're going to be in a bit of trouble. Don't kill me, Kevin.
Yeah, I on paper it definitely looks really bad. Is Mahomes Josh Allen though?
That's a fair point.
Or is Josh?
I
I
agree
know
with
Josh
that.
Allen is not Patrick Mahomes, but is Patrick Mahomes Josh Allen? I'm confused.
Are you saying no, wait, I can't tell if you're throwing shade my way. Are you saying because Josh Allen's got the ability to just make the play on his own? I know Patrick Mahomes can do that too, but Josh Allen could use his legs to just make anything work, right?
Yeah, I'd say that's kind of what I was leaning towards. Was like, I think
I don't know
Josh
if you're
Allen.
making fun of me. I'll take it though.
No, I would never make fun of you, Adrian. Just Kevin. That's
It's all love,
Kevin's
yeah.
not here. Only when you're not here, I'll do it.
At Kevin's expense is the theme of the show.
Absolutely.
Tatum Maximum, what up, man? I agree. He is one of a kind. I think. Look, you know what? Sometimes quarterback rankings come out, and someone's stupid enough to not put Mahomes number one, and it's like, dude, you're just going for like the stupid, like the Nick Wright effect.
That's insane. That's absolutely ridiculous. But I think the last show, I don't think you were on it when I was on it. Kevin and I were talking about, we said this number several times. I forget the number now, if it was like 57% or 70%. But the Bills lost a lot of wide receiver production last year. I think it was like 57% of their production or 60%. I don't know. He said
From
like
last year to this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was some sort of percentage. So they lost a lot of it. Will Josh Allen make what Mahomes did and make that happen? I'm not quite sure. I am relatively more nervous than I was with Mahomes when Mahomes had to do it, probably just because we've seen it for a couple seasons now. But I'm kind of excited. I think it'll be a challenge for him. But I'm hoping Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel, one of those guys, Marquez Valdez Scantling, finding him.
I didn't even say Keon Coleman.
Did you not
Sorry,
say Keon
Keon
Coleman?
Coleman.
I think that's the one that I hope for the most, because I think in terms of his personality, tremendous, and I think he could fit well and kind of fit right in with Josh Allen. But Marquez could have some deep routes, and Josh Allen could find him, and he could find some momentum there. Curtis Samuel, he can be anywhere on the field. Honestly,
I love Curtis Samuel for them. I love him.
Yeah, I've always had a higher like ceiling for Curtis Samuel than probably like I always expect more from Curtis Samuel, and he always like lets me down. So I feel like this could be a good like.
You ready to be hurt again?
Yeah, I am ready to be hurt again. Absolutely. He's with Josh Allen. This is the best. This is his best quarterback that he's been with. So I wouldn't be surprised if he steps up as well. If I had to put money on it, though, I'm not putting any money on Curtis Samuel, but I will get my hopes up a little bit. Just not my money up on him.
I'm going to see if I can see what his over-under is while you take us to our next one.
For Curtis Samuel?
Yeah, what his season over-under is.
That's interesting. Do you want me to go another thing that matters?
Yeah. Oh, actually, you know what? Take it wherever you want to take it. If you want to take it to rumors.
I don't know if I have any that doesn't matter.
Otherwise,
I'll say one that doesn't matter. I'll say the Chargers running back room. I don't think that necessarily matters tremendously, because I think Jim Harbaugh will kind of find some room for somebody to be productive regardless of who that is, if that makes any sense.
It does. I mean, look, Jim Harbaugh is the master of that world, right? He loves to run the ball.
Yeah, I won't even say it'll necessarily work this year, but like they have Gus Edwards, who we haven't seen any sort of like huge workload from him. So that'll be interesting. J.K. Dobbins, he barely – I saw a number. I think he has like 50,000 guaranteed this year, which is nothing. So he just wants to get the ball. He's going to say, like, if I get the ball, I'm the best in the game. But, like, we have to see that, obviously. And then we have rookie Kamani Vidal, or I believe that's how you pronounce it, coming in as well. So I'm not, like, looking at this room and I'm like – for fantasy, sure, I would love to see who's going to get it, but like, there's just no telling what's going to happen with this room at all. What kind of impact is going to make with a new head coach, with the scheme that we think he's going to implement. But just like looking at it on paper, it's like, yeah, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Who knows if it's going to be successful, or if he's just going to lay a foundation for how he wants to see the running back room and then make. Get a different guy next year. I don't know.
Kamani Vidal's that player that's going in fantasy probably just a little too high, and everyone's expecting. And even I
because there's no telling what's going to happen in this depth chart. Like he's running back 3 maybe on paper, but like he could easily be like running back 1, especially with people expecting like a bigger workload for running backs when there's no name on that where I would expect a workload. It's just the Jim Harbaugh effect, I assume.
Yeah. And not to mention, like, Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins both had issues with durability. I'm sure J.K. Dobbins, there was something in the news about him saying those days are done, but how often have we heard that? So
yeah, so doesn't matter to an extent.
Like it. All right. I'm gonna, you know what? Just looking at, and if we want to just hit a bit of training camp news, I'm just gonna rapid fire a couple here that I think matter.
Let's do it, yeah.
Obviously, so there's 2 quarterback battles that matter: Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy, and we'll talk about that in the. We've got the legit newsletter mentioning that today. Drake May and Jacoby Brissett. How quick do they put Drake May in? I really hope that Drake May comes out as the starter. Really excited to see what he does. The Broncos quarterback room. So that's and one more quarterback. Zach Wilson, I feel like is going to come out with the start, weirdly enough. But
wow,
how long until Bo Nix is in? Yeah, I think Payton's talked up Bo Nix too much to have him start and not have a good start. I feel like
I kind of agree with you, but I still don't like it.
Yeah, I don't want to. I've had enough Zach Wilson in my life for ever.
Yeah.
And the last one is the Eagles secondary. With all the premium that they drafted, the premium that they've got. There's Rodgers coming back from suspension. These are less likely, but James Bradbury's there, Keely Ringo. They've just got so much. Who's going to end up? I would say cornerback 3. I'd put Darius Slay and Avonte Maddox as number 1 and 2. And then who takes that 3rd slot?
Yeah.
Don't drop a couple. Is Zach Wilson starting? It's funny when you can laugh at it now, can't you?
Hey, he's a really good quarterback. He's in a new home. It could work, right?
It actually could. Fun on that. It actually could.
It could for a little bit,
Can I,
maybe.
yeah. Can I just say Zach Wilson, who, similar to like a lot of players, got thrown into a bad situation, and then last year, what should have happened is he should have sat, and when he got thrown into that situation, a good offensive coordinator would have just done something to make it more him friendly. But Nathaniel Hackett, it was like when Aaron Rodgers went out, he just hadn't planned for that whatsoever. It was just like, no, I've got Aaron Rodgers, that's who I'm playing for. Nothing changed, and he got thrown to the wolves. So I agree. I hope the best for him. I hope he actually has a good year.
I hope he can start just so he can get another chance. Because if he never
Yeah.
gets another chance, then it's just like what could have been. Like I need to see him. I want to see him again on a different team, for sure. So did we talk about Darnold or McCarthy at all? I think.
Not yet. Well, I just mentioned it quickly, but let's talk about it.
Yeah, I think I've heard Sam Darnold is kind of balling out in training camp. So I wouldn't be surprised if he kind of started the season. But I think obviously eventually JJ McCarthy will end up playing this season because I don't think Sam Darnold is any sort of guy that will make it long term for the Vikings. But the Vikings have a lot of question marks in terms of like just production at the quarterback spot. But if JJ McCarthy can come in and produce, I think that would be big time. But I definitely think, obviously, with any rookie quarterback kind of positional battle, it definitely matters. It definitely matters in terms of like what decision they make on how they're going to proceed with the rookie quarterback. You have to be careful. You have to know what they're ready for. You don't want to put them in when they're not ready. There's no need for that. But obviously, when you're not producing, are you going to throw them in or are you going to still sit them out? We'll see. You saw with Jordan Love how well it worked out. We've obviously seen it not go well with maybe a quarterback we were just talking about in Zach Wilson. So
that's fair. Do you want to rapid fire? Have you got any other battles that matter, or do we want to just training camp news?
Najee Harris versus Jalen Warren isn't really like a positional battle that you would think of, but I think there's some dynamic there that is very interesting. Javonte Williams is on the hot seat for sure. They have a lot of running backs like Audric Estime, Samaje Perine, Julian McLaughlin, where people think they could step up and take over Javonte Williams' leash. Got a lot shorter, unfortunately, with his injury. He could have, but he could come back. He just wasn't nearly as efficient as he could have been last year. Chargers wide receiver room. Who knows
what wide receiver room?
With that? Yeah. So the Chargers skill positions as a whole, a lot of question marks there. And then Adonai Mitchell and Alec Pierce for the Colts in terms of wide receivers. Will Adonai come in and take over kind of that spot and join Michael?
What do you want to see?
What do I want to see? I want to see them both do really good, man.
That's a very. I want to
see them both do really good. I would love to see Alec Pierce. Honestly, I would love to see. I guess I wouldn't love to see, but I wouldn't. I would love to see Alec Pierce do good and Adonai kind of take a backseat, get some production this year. But I think Alec Pierce was kind of what's the word? What's a good word that I can't cuss? I think Alec Pierce was looked down on last year when I feel like he actually played really well with kind of the targets that he got. And I would love to see Alec Pierce play with Anthony Richardson. So I think they would match well together.
I think that the news out of camp is that Mitchell's been playing really well. Or might have been rookie camp. I can't remember, but there was something. All right, we're doing well, man. So let's just quickly hit a couple of the items in the Legit Football newsletter. So if you don't subscribe, so those who don't know, actually, so this podcast is under the Legit Football banner. And if you don't subscribe, it's the best way to get your news. It is a newsletter once a day, every weekday, that gives you quick, short, sharp information. So let's hit a couple news stories in here. We'll start with the Vikings camp, who we've just talked about. So Will Raggett from Sports Illustrated wrote that JJ McCarthy had an impressive day, making quick decisions and ripping balls with velocity into tight windows. He appeared to complete 8 of 9 passes during team periods. So Darnold is the starter. I think that's a foregone conclusion at this point. But I think if JJ McCarthy has a really strong camp, it won't be long until he's in. Darnold apparently had shown some kind of a bit of chemistry with JJ, with Jordan Addison. So interesting one there. I mean, look, if you're a betting man, Jimmy, and I don't know if you are a betting man, are you?
Yes.
Yeah, great, because it's well documented.
NFL football, that's when I'm doing it. Yeah, that's when I bet usually.
Yeah, thank you, Tyler Maximum, man. We love you, dude. That's great. If you're a betting man, when would you say JJ McCarthy is in as the starter? What week, if not week 1?
Week 7.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I
7 or
think
8 is normally.
Yeah, I think it could be later too. I mean, if they're kind of, I think with the skill positions and stuff that they have, with the team that they have around Sam Darnold, I could potentially see him, scraping by just enough, giving JJ McCarthy just some more time to get. Oh, geez, sorry, I just saw a long Armand just sent a whole paragraph. We'll have to read. Uh, but yeah, I think Sam Darnold could produce a little bit with some of these skill positions, but I do think like halfway through the season, depending on what spot they're in terms of the win loss record, is when they'll kind of make that decision. If that makes sense, like whether they are in the playoff race.
Yeah. I hear. And quick side note, and I can't read that hashtag. It's family friendly show, but I can bring it on the screen. I didn't hear that. That does suck. It always sucks to see that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
And thoughts, prayers, love goes out to him. I hope it all works out for Jake Hayner. I'm assuming I'm pronouncing that correctly. Platinum Maximum bringing up Baker. So Bucks camp has apparently been going pretty well. Rookie receiver Jalen McMillan had an MVP-worthy practice, catching multiple passes and touchdowns from Baker. He apparently is seamlessly integrated into the Bucks offense, and he said fans should believe the McMillan hype. That's from Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. And also, rookie running back Bucky Irving took his reps behind Rashad White. Rashad White never really. I mean, look, he kind of is getting sold as this RB3, RB4, RB5 in fantasy, but he hasn't really had that production. So I'm interested to see how he goes. I am forever a Baker fan. Any thoughts on Bucks camp, or are we good to move on from there, Yimi?
yeah, Rashad White in terms of like PPR and stuff, I think he could be definitely really good. But he's in the same realm of as like a Brees Hall type, and I don't think he's quite there. But yeah, they're running it back for the most part, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if they can take that next step. I think eventually they'll have to go a different direction. But I don't know if Baker could take him to like any sort of promised land. I don't know. Do you have any sort of expectation with that? I mean, they're not in a terrible division for it.
It's hard because I love Baker. I love the player. I love his moxie, but I appreciate that he's not
I
going
mean,
to
they
do
made a
anything.
run, yeah.
Yeah, and they did. They won a playoff game with him. Like, whether you like him or not, he's got something. He brought the Browns to their first playoff win in however many years it had been. There's something there. I think the problem with Baker is two things. His accuracy is obviously an issue, but he's too streaky to take you there. So to me, kind of, he's like a poor man's Kirk Cousins. When he's got his highlight reel, he's doing okay, but when he's not consistent enough to be able to sort of take you somewhere and get you through a one-loss elimination tournament.
Absolutely, yeah.
Our last one we hit here. So, Armand, your boys, Jets camp. News out of Jets camp is Aaron Rodgers had great practice, 13 to 16 passes complete, 40-yard touchdown to Garrett Wilson. Alan Lazard, who apparently has entered on the roster bubble, has been one of Rodgers' most targeted receivers and scored touchdowns in consecutive practices. Athletic Zach Rosenblatt also wrote that Brees Hall looked like the most explosive player on the field in 11-11 drills. And Tyron Smith at left tackle has been, quote-unquote, impenetrable. So that's really good news. What are we expecting for the Jets this year?
Dude, we're expecting a very wide range of outcomes, right?
Agreed.
We could see them make the AFC Championship game. I guess that's. That's like that's the good wide range of outcomes. We could see them easily, get like 6 wins. I feel like, man, maybe not. Maybe it's closer. I think that's a low minimum because they do have a really good defense and team as a whole. But I do feel like we could be in for like lower. Like we could see them not meet the expectations, or Aaron Rodgers not as good as he used to be. But I'm leaning on the side of them making the playoffs. I'm pretty sure I predicted that a month ago or so.
I'm looking because I'm sure I put them in one of my parlays. No, I didn't. I put Garrett Wilson. I agree with you. Look, I think if Rodgers stays healthy, it's what is good for them is I feel like the shine from last year, where it's like Super Bowl or bust, is kind of dulled a little bit, and the expectations are a little bit lower, even though they're still fairly sky high. At this point, if Rodgers comes out and is an average to above average QB, I'd call that a success at this point.
Yeah, with
Aman,
what right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, Armand. There's sort of like Jets fans are so soured from everything that's happened over the past however many years it's been. I agree with you. We kind of got to see it on the field, and we're going to see it for a season. Like it's all well and good to joke about kind of Aaron Rodgers taking 4 snaps, but that sucks, man. That we got that stolen from us last year. We all wanted to see Rodgers, including me as a Packers fan. So I hope that. Sorry?
I was just gonna say it comes down. I mean, that's with every team. Like, I think most training camp news and rumors is relatively good, right? Other than injuries. So like, we're gonna be hearing, oh, like this left tackle's playing really well. Brees Hall is more explosive than he was last year. But it's all kind of hearsay. It's always, but it's like really really fun to listen to and kind of take note of. And that's kind of what we're doing right now, is just talking about what's going to happen, but we don't know what decisions are being made. We're just watching people make cool plays without pads right now, So
It's hope season, baby.
yeah, let's go.
All right, we did it. We did it without our captain, and I think that's noteworthy. In fact, we probably did it better. I'd say that maybe
We
could
didn't
probably
take enough digs at him.
Yeah, I feel like we could maybe start a petition to get Kevin Phillip Box thrown off this show, or at least just relegated. Maybe relegated to like the corner where
Yeah.
he's sort of allowed to contribute 4 to 5 words a minute maximum.
Yeah, if he's listening right now and he just can't respond or anything, Kev, if you want us to take the reins, Adrian he's a scab producer, and now he's kind of a scab host. Yeah, so we're ready.
I'm a scab all rounder. I am the scab Taysom Hill. Like, I can do it all.
He can, and I'm just here. I'm here for the ride, man.
You are the heartbeat of this show, Jimmy Ray.
Yeah,
Jimmy Nathaniel Ray, which I assume is your middle name. Nailed it. You are the heartbeat of this show. I know it's not your middle name.
Nathaniel Hackett, Ray to you.
I
just thought of Nathaniel Hackett immediately.
You're right. I take it back. I can't put that.
Thank
put that stink on you.
Oh God.
All right. So before we wrap up, a couple things. We've got obviously now that we're back into training camp, we're aiming to be back here every week. We're going to come up with a few power rankings over the next few weeks. We want to talk about Hard Knocks once it drops for the Bears, and then we will obviously be there and recapping preseason games and then back into the season as we always are. So if you are not a subscriber so far, head to our YouTube and subscribe. If you don't subscribe to the Legit Football newsletter, please do that. So do that as well, because they allowed us to do what we want to do here, and we love them for that. Jimmy Ray, anything you want to say to the people before we take off?
We have an NFL football game in 6 days, the Hall of Fame game coming up.
What up?
Also, Anthony Richardson comes back, and his MVP starts in about MVP season starts in about a month, dude.
Wash your mouth out with soap. Don't say it out loud. Don't put that in the universe.
I have to. I'm putting it out in the universe because what do I have to lose? The same thing that happened last year. That's the worst thing that could have happened last year. So like, if that happens again, I'm used to it, man.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, he's not being held back. They're not holding back his running ability, from what I hear. Let's
doesn't
get
seem
it,
it.
man. Let's get
out
it.
of camp. As you said, it's always glowing out of camp, but it seems like he hasn't been limited whatsoever. So that's good to hear.
I'll be there for the Colts Cardinals joint practice in August, so I'm excited for that. So I'll get a front page look, front row look at Anthony Richardson just balling out, Marvin Harrison Jr. just looking amazing too. Marvin Harrison Jr. with the Colts in a different way.
In a different way, but it will be interesting to see. He's another person that I really can't wait to see. Even in the preseason, I'm sure he'll get some reps, and that'll be
exciting. Will he win the wide receiver 1 battle? That's the question we have to ask.
Real question mark there.
Yeah.
All right, people. It's been fun. We did it. We got here without Kevin Phillip Fox. We didn't burn this thing to the ground, and that is a success in its own right. So thank you for everyone. Thank you for in the comments for being here. We love you guys as always. I'm Adrian Revito, your current Scab host. He's Jimmy Ray. Jimmy Nathaniel. Jimmy Nathaniel Ray, the foxiest man, who also founded NFL Stats, the only NFL Stats page that actually matters.
That's true.
So if you don't follow them, get on top of it. We love you, and we are